You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Kerry Greenaway and Mark Manley on the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show, only on Parasearch UK Radio.
Good evening and welcome to the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show. I am Kerry Greenaway and I'm joined here with my co-host tonight, Mark Manley. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Kerry. How's you?
I'm absolutely fine, thank you. We've got an absolute fabulous guest with us tonight, don't we?
We have got Mr. Dave Spinks back with us again with a really good connection, and we're going to have a chat with him tonight, aren't we?
We certainly are. Good evening, Dave. How are you?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm fine.
Excellent. Right, off you go, Mark. I'm going to sit back and let you deal with this.
No problem. First of all, would you by any chance just like to tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself? Those who don't.
Yeah, my name's, as they said, Dave Spinks. I've been investigating the paranormal / supernatural field since 1986 after I had several experiences as a young man. Of course, over my working years, I investigated when I could, and I was often called to people's home residences to check out things they were reporting as they thought they had a ghost in their house, or they saw a creature in the woods behind their house, or whatever the case, or one run across the road and all that kind of stuff. So over the years, I've been called many, many times to come and check out reports of those type of things. And I spent 9 years in the U.S. Air Force, and then I got injured, and I got out of the military and went into federal law enforcement for 12 years, and then I retired in 2011. Okay. Once I retired, then I went full-blown with my paranormal investigations and took everything I do public. And there you have it, in a nutshell.
Yeah, you've done a heck of a lot. I mean, you've done, most of the places you've done, we'd kill to go and do. But I'd ask you, which is your favourite genre of the paranormal? Is it ufology, cryptozoology, paranormal?
It's really hard to really say one is my favorite. I really am fascinated with all of it. With the hauntings, there's just so many more locations and reports that you get or people call you to and want you to check out, with hauntings. But as far as like Bigfoot sightings and UFO sightings, those are a lot less, there's a lot less of those per se than there is haunting reports. So, most of the time, what I'm doing is investigating hauntings and whatnot. So, but I'm really fascinated with everything. I don't have a specific one. Because I think it's like if you see on my website, I have like a 3-thing mantra where I say, I believe there's something after we die. I also think there's unknown creatures walking among us. And I don't think we're alone in the universe. So It's just, those 3 things are really, fascinate me because it's like the final frontier, if you will, There's stuff out there we just don't understand, and I want to hopefully find one little piece to those puzzles at some point, hopefully.
I think that sounds like the goal of most of us, genuine investigators, because you're spot on. I think there are things that we haven't discovered yet. I believe I do think a lot of cryptozoology, we haven't discovered half of it. I think there could be throwbacks from, I don't know, missing links, prehistoric times, whatever. I certainly don't think we are the only planet in the whole of the cosmos that's got intelligent life on it. You look at Donald Trump. I disprove that one.
It's so naughty. So naughty, Mark.
And I don't. That's what I get paid to be. And then, actually, oh, hang on, you don't pay me. Yeah. But, and then you got the paranormal side of it, which we love doing, and I started doing running events in the woods and things like that. So, and I just find the whole thing fascinating. But I suppose my main thing is cryptozoology and ufology. I absolutely love those.
Yeah, I mean, all of it's just fascinating to me, and you know, there's just too many reports from very credible people, you know, out there that it lends itself to make one think that, yeah, there's definitely something to all of this, whether it be hauntings, crypto, or ufology. I mean, there's just too many reports. And then when you go, like, if you touch on the ufology field, I mean, you have all these military and high-ranking government officials now coming out talking about this. I mean, there's just, you know, there's just way too much out there, too much information being put out there now, that there's definitely something to it, you know. And if you go to the sightings of crypto, you know, if you go to crypto sightings and reports, you know, you're having this from all walks of life now, to include doctors, lawyers, law enforcement, government officials as well. So, you know, there's definitely something to it, all of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, with regards to the cryptozoology, I mean, we used to live in the southwest of England, near Cornwall, Devon, Somerset, and you may have heard of the Beasts of Dartmoor and all the talks about pumas down there. Myself and both my daughters, we've seen one of the, was it one or two of them? We've seen two, brown one and a black one. We've seen two of the pumas there. And when you go and talk to the police about it, because one of the police there is a friend of mine, they're all like, "Oh yeah, we know, we know. We've got lots of photos of it. We all know it's there. We just leave it in peace, you know."
Yeah,
we don't have anything as exotic as Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, you know, who knows what circuses and various acts have let loose over the years in the wilderness, and if there's a breeding pair, I mean, they're going to breed. Nature will take its course, and that's, you know, some of the things that happen like that.
Exactly. I mean, the only time you'll see a Bigfoot around here is if I've got my T-shirt off and I've got the barbecue in the woods. So, what's been the best place you've ever done an investigation in? And I'm talking like anywhere in the world, because I mean, I want to go to, I think is it Venice, where you've got Leper Island?
Oh, yeah, Poveglia Island, yeah. I have not had the pleasure of going there. I actually lived in Venice for almost, well, not in Venice, like 30 minutes north of Venice when I was in the military. And I was down in Venice, you know, all the time. Every weekend I could get to go down there. And for years, I tried to get some of the locals to take me over there on a boat, and they refused. I mean, I could not find anyone. And and then my buddy David Weatherly, I didn't know him at the time, but he had been over there, and he got one to take him over there, and they will not even let their boat touch the dock. You have to, they pull up and you have to jump off the boat onto the dock. And when they come and pick you up, you better be there or they're going to leave you there. Like, the locals just do not go near that place.
Yeah, very, very superstitious, aren't they, about it?
Yeah, well, it's literally built on the bones of people. I mean, you know.
Yeah, because Harsey Island was the graveyard, wasn't it?
Yeah. You know, they took people that had the plague there and just left them to die, and they built that big asylum there and everything. And who knows how many bodies are there? It's probably an untold number.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you had when the TB epidemic was going on, they put them in the asylum there as well, didn't they?
Yeah. Any kind of contagious disease, that's where they took them, in that area.
Exactly. I mean, horrible time, and I can guess that when you do go over there, the energy must be absolutely unreal.
Oh, yeah, even in Venice, I mean, it's awesome to walk the streets of Venice at night, you know, with your recorder, and you can get EVPs and whatnot. I mean, it's pretty, you know, that's a really, really old city, and there's a ton of energy there, and it's really spooky at night because like everybody goes inside and locks up, and it's like a ghost town at night, except for
Really?
in certain touristy areas. Yeah, it's really freaky, man.
Okay, one of the places I was quite interested to see was the Sidio Monastery in northern Italy.
Yes, that place is not far from Venice, about an hour, I think it was, if I remember right. That was back in the mid-'90s when I was there, so I may have, a little bit of memory lapse on times and whatnot, but yeah, I got to go there. There was a lot of satanic worship that took place in that place over the years, because it's been abandoned for many, many years. It dates back to the 1500s, if I remember correctly. And, we touched on it last time on the show when I had that really bad connection and whatnot. But, it took me weeks to get a couple of my buddies to go that were in the military with me. And, they were scared to death. And we actually caught some chanting on an EVP, and there was a lot of satanic symbolism painted on the walls and other things like that. Found some skeletons of animals that may have been sacrificed. I don't know, because they were degraded very badly. But really, really creepy place. It was very grown up. The weeds were 6 to 8 feet high, and you had to kind of push your way through to get to them. Back in those days, and really, really creepy area.
Sounds like a place that we need to go to.
Yeah, I just walked right up to it. There was no gates or nothing. I walked right up. We parked there and pushed our way in through the weeds and went out, and it's a really big place. There were some areas in it that were very degraded and whatnot, and you had to be careful. I was scared like the roof might fall down on me or something. But other than that, it was a really crazy place.
Yeah, it sounds it. I'm going to have a look into that one. But what's one thing I meant to ask you, because I'm never clear about Mothman. There's been, so many reported sightings and this, that, and the other, but there's been a couple of really credible sightings. What's your take on it?
Oh, yeah, I definitely believe something happened. Many things happened. Actually, you're talking about my home state of West Virginia.
Yeah.
I live only a couple of hour drive from there. And I think what a lot of people don't know or understand about that area is it dates back to the French and American Indian Wars. There's 2 major rivers that converge right there. And in my opinion, I'm a true believer in water is a paranormal conductor of activity. Also, you had the Chief Cornstalk curse that he cursed that whole area all the way in the Ohio Valley area.
Yeah. And
you have all these different layers of things that happened right there over the years. And when the whites came in, there was many wars there, and there was revolutionary battles, there was Indian war battles there, as well as the Civil War was heavy in through that area, because it was a key area, because there's 2 major rivers, right there. And you have all those deaths associated with that. And the Mothman, there's many different theories on that. Some say it's an alien, some say it's a harbinger of, when it shows up, there's going to be a major disaster after, which in the Point Pleasant case, the bridge fell and killed a lot of people. And it's been seen all over the world, apparently. And during that whole wave of sightings there in Point Pleasant of the Mothman, there was also a ton of UFO activity. You also had, during World War II, they manufactured the detonator for both of the atomic bombs that were dropped on Japan right outside the city there. And, if you study ufology, a lot of times these UFOs will appear around nuclear sites.
That's right, yeah.
So, what it is exactly, who knows? If it's an alien or it's a crypto animal of some sort, who knows? But during that whole wave of sightings, it went on for years, too. People were having, seeing ships in the sky. There was hauntings going on, all kinds of paranormal activity along with the Mothman sighting. So it's just one of those areas, as Weatherly calls it, my buddy, areas of high strangeness.
We got that over here. It's called Glastonbury.
Yeah. So, I'm just lucky that I'm from this state, and there's a lot of stuff like that in my state, here in West Virginia.
That's what, from what I've been seeing of the reports and stuff. I reckon you possibly hit the nail on the head there. A, cryptozoology, B, ufology, as in something's escaped off a ship.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I mean, there's another very famous sighting here in West Virginia called the Flatwoods Monster that was an alien. People saw what they described as a fireball coming down, and it actually changed direction numerous times and then crashed on the mountain here, and that's only 30 minutes from my house.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I live right down the road from there. And
that the one in the 50s?
Yeah, in 52, I believe, September of 52, I believe it was. And I grew up hearing, my grandfathers and locals talking about that, who knew some of the people that were eyewitnesses to that. And, these kids went up, they were all playing games right by the school there, and they saw the thing hit on top of the mountain. They ran up there, and they all saw a creature that was blowing smoke and noxious fumes, and they were affected physically and got sick from it, and all kinds of stuff happened. And I actually have a piece of wood from the tree that was on fire where the thing hit the ground. So, it's pretty cool.
I was just about to say that, because I can remember the government were there quite quick, weren't they? And they said, no, nobody's coming in, and something was put on a lorry underneath a tarpaulin and hauled away from there, wasn't it?
There was reports of that. I don't know how, if that was actually verified or not, but the military was in there. And during that whole time, there was what they call a UFO wave over the whole East Coast during that whole time. And there was massive amounts of UFOs being spotted all up and down the East Coast, West Virginia included. There was numerous stories of fighter jets chasing these ships, and some reported to have even crashed, chasing these UFOs. And pilots were killed, and there was a big cover-up of many sorts going on during that time.
That's right.
That was during the time when they actually were spotting UFOs over the White House, matter of fact. So
that's right. There was quite a series of them. Was it a 2-day stretch? There was about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
No, I want to.
Yeah, 2 to 3 day stretch. Yep. So there's definitely something to all of it. What it is,
definitely,
who knows?
Definitely.
I think we're getting closer and closer to full disclosure, though, with all these government officials coming out with reports and whatnot.
Pretty much most people that I know nowadays. I've seen a couple of things I can't explain. I used to do a lot of night fishing on the coast. When you do that at night, clear skies, you can actually see some really strange things going on way up in the air.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I've seen stuff like that, and so have a few of my friends. But one thing that really, really made my ears prick up was the Brazilian government having full disclosure, turning around saying, yeah, there's this, that, and the other, and they're urging all the other governments to come clean about it now, aren't they?
Yeah, that'd be a beautiful thing, but I just don't, obviously they don't do it for specific reasons, for technology purposes, or, there's some theories out there that say that government leaders have struck deals with these aliens and they trade off humans for technology and whatnot. So who knows what the heck's going on with all that. I hope to God they wouldn't do something like that, but that's pretty frightening if you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. One of the people in the chat room there, Akila, she's asked what your opinion on reptiles is.
On reptilians?
Reptilians, yeah.
Yeah, well, they say there's five to seven different alien species here on Earth now. It goes with what I said earlier. I definitely believe there's intelligent life out there besides us. I don't think we're the only intelligent life in the universe. The numbers are just too staggering against that. And
exactly.
Sure, why not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every pinprick of light in the sky, there's supposed to be at least 2 planets capable of sustaining human life by each star, isn't there?
Yeah, they're finding more every day. The number, I can't remember the number, but I just saw it maybe a week ago that NASA, the Kepler telescope or whatever, I mean, they're finding numerous, I mean, it's up in the hundreds of Goldilocks planets now. So,
That's right, yeah.
I mean, and that's just a small, tiny portion of what the telescope can see. So just imagine the numbers that are out there.
Exactly. And for anybody listening who doesn't know what the Goldilocks planet is, it basically just means the area it's in. It's called the Goldilocks zone because it's not too hot and it's not too cold and it's capable of sustaining life. I think that's right.
Yep. And it has liquid water as well.
Yeah.
So,
what was the other? Oh, yeah. And another thing that's also, I'm fairly convinced that, I mean, I don't think we are, I think most of us now actually do not think that we are the only planet out there with intelligent life. I think if you do think that, then you're a bit naive and backwards. But that's my own opinions. No, a lot of the tribes in Africa and a lot of the Aztecs and this, that, and the other, they all have star charts all pointing to the same constellation, don't they?
yeah, oh yeah, numerous tribes talk about they come from the stars. The Native Americans, the Hopis, the Aztecs, so many. There's so many. The Aborigines down in Australia. I mean, there's so many different tribes out there that, all their folklore and all their stories that are handed down talk about them coming from the stars. So, and then you have the other, on the flip side of that, you have people saying that they think us humans are some kind of massive DNA experiment done by aliens or some sort. So, I mean, there's so many theories out there. I don't buy in. I don't put myself saying, for 100% that's what I think it is, because that would just be naive. You just kind of got to keep an open mind about it and, just watch and see what happens. I try not to make judgments when it comes to those type of things.
I think that we are going to see disclosure in our lifetime. What do you reckon?
I hope so. I mean, that's what, we're all hoping. And I just don't think they can keep a lid on it too much longer. I mean, there's just too many officials coming out. And, you got astronauts, you got military generals and colonels. And, even UK's former, Minister of Defense came out in recent years and he's all over TV now talking about it. So, You
got Nick Pope as well, haven't you, who used to work for the MOD?
Yeah, Nick Pope, that's who I'm talking about. And so, there's just so many people coming out. And what was it? The Canadian Prime Minister came out and talked about it. So there's just too many things going on. I think it'll come to a full fruition here before too long.
Even NASA has said that there's going to be full disclosure within the next 20 years, don't they?
Yeah, there's people making statements like that. So I don't know why they just don't come out and say it now. I think people can handle it mentally. I think that was one of the problems why they didn't do it many years ago after Roswell and whatnot, because they were scared that it may cause mass chaos, throughout the world. But I think people for having, they don't give people credit for being smart, and they want to control everything, and it's not always the case.
Yeah, exactly. I think the government, maybe in the 50s, 60s, possibly even the 70s, they wouldn't have been able to handle it because people were a heck of a lot more religious then. But I think now, even the Pope has turned around and said, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, that we are not the only planet with intelligent life on there. There has to be something out there because, as he put it, God put his seed everywhere. But for the Pope to turn around and say that as well,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there's many famous religious paintings that show UFOs in the paintings with beams of light coming down.
That's right. That's right.
And it's hard to, the Vatican is a wealth of knowledge, and they've covered stuff up for many, many years too. So and for them to come out and start saying stuff, it's getting closer.
Yeah, I hope so. It's like James is saying in the chat room here, you've got all these planets, and then they found, what was it? Brian Cox said a week later they found a new planet system with at least 5 planets with the special Drake equation. And then that doesn't include our own solar system with moons around Saturn with ice and water on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What was I say? Have you, what type of Yetis or Sasquatches have you actually investigated? It like like the skunk ape and stuff like that.
My experience has been primarily here in West Virginia. They go by several names. They call them yahoos and wildmen and woolly booger. That's hillbilly slang, though. Woolly booger or stuff like that. And of course, they call it the West Virginia Stone Man, and it goes by many different names. It just depends what area of the state you live in. So, I've investigated many reports of Sasquatch, and right here in my own county, I've actually had an encounter with one when I was a kid and with my grandfather, and I haven't really talked about it yet because I actually filmed for a TV show for it, and I also am putting it in a new book. I've been collecting stories from locals here for right around 4.5 years now, and so I'm excited about that, and
if you'd like, when your book comes out, when your book comes out, come back on and we can talk about your book.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate it. So, I've got a lot of stuff coming out in the next year on this stuff, and my grandfather, me and my grandfather promised we would never talk about it, and he died this past year, so now I'm talking about it, So,
fair enough. You kept your promise.
Yeah. Yep, I did. Well, and another reason it's kind of funny because I found out, after my grandfather died, I started talking to my uncle about it, and lo and behold, he told my uncle about it. So, because he said, he said, I got to tell somebody, I got to get this off my chest. And it's just in case something happens to me. And, he told my uncle all about it. And then I was talking to my uncle, and he's like, oh, you're talking about that monkey man you and Grandpa saw on the river that day. And I was like, how'd you know? So Grandpa told me about it like 20 years ago. I'm like, oh my God. So, it is what it is, and I'm ready to share it, and that's what I'm going to do.
What's your thoughts as to what the Yeti could be? Because I remember last time when the signal's bad, I tried to talk to you about that, because my own opinion is I think when all the continents were together as Pangaea, the supercontinent, we had things like Gigantopithecus and stuff like that. I mean, when it was one supercontinent, they would have gone to all different bits of the continent, depending on the seasons. And then when Pangaea broke up, this, my idea is that's why you've got the Yowie in Australia, you've got the Tibetan Yeti, you've got the Northern California, you've got the Northern American ones, etc., etc.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a good point. Like we touched on, they've only explored 10 to 20% of our own world's ocean. They're finding new creatures every day. What I often talk about when I do these shows is being prior law enforcement and military. You're taught to be an observer. Most people are too busy worrying about their kids, worrying about their jobs, or they got their head buried in their cell phone when they're walking around. They do not pay attention to their local environment, what's around them. And I often tell people, there could be a squatch or even a person standing 20 yards away from you hiding behind a tree, and you would never know it, because most people do not focus on their surroundings. They're too worried about life in general or whatever the case may be. And there's tons and tons. Where I live, for one example, I'm surrounded by millions of acres of nothing but hardwoods and mountains. There could be a whole family of squatches living right behind my house, and I wouldn't know it unless I was out there in the woods looking for them. And most people just do not go out in the woods. They don't.
It's like because as James said in the chat room there, you've got the Appalachian Mount. I don't even know how to say it properly. Appalachian,
yeah.
Appalachian Mountains there, which is it's thousands of square miles, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it goes from like Maine all the way down to North Georgia and North Alabama. So
yeah, you can have anything in there.
Oh yeah, and that's just that's just the East Coast, and you're not talking about the Pacific Northwest and up in Canada and everything else, where it's even more dense forested and more. There's places there that man's probably never even set foot on still yet today, and even places here in my home state, the small state of West Virginia, there's places that people probably have not walked in 100 years. It's just that thick and dense with woods. So if there is a small band, I personally think they're very few in numbers, the Sasquatches, and it would be very easy for them to hide out and people just not rarely, very rarely see them because they're nocturnal anyway. So,
Well, yeah, exactly.
So, and then there are times when people have brushes with them, and then hence the reports and all that,
I definitely think there's something out there. I mean, I don't think we're the only form of humanoid out there. I mean, you've got the Iran Pendek as well. They've recently discovered the hobbits, as they called them, and now there's all these discoveries of so-called giants and things as well.
Oh, absolutely. And then, you still, people don't realize they still have not found the link between man and ape yet either.
That's probably one of my old in-laws.
There you go. But, yeah, there's still a missing segment of hominids right there, and who's to say that Squatch and Bigfoot and all the other names it goes by is not the missing link. We just don't know yet because we don't have a body.
Exactly, and unfortunately, scientists, I don't know about now so much, but back in the day, they'd rather have a dead body so that they could experiment on it. But
absolutely.
I'd quite rather see them roaming about,
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's all these crazy shows out there. I think there was one called Killing Bigfoot, and it's just, it's absolutely ridiculous. Why would you, unless you were threatened with your life or physical bodily harm, and you had to defend yourself, why would you kill something like that? You're not going to hunt it to eat it, and just killing them for the sake of science. No, I mean, we have the technology now. If, try to get out there and capture one if possible, dart it if you have to,
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I mean, for all the ones I've seen, because I like credible, as we were talking about before the show, I like credible shows. And something which has got, something that makes you think. And I quite like the James, as I said, James Bobo Fay and their team. And they're good at spotting the people who, how can I put it, embellish on stories. I think that you need to, for stuff like that, you need to be able to sort out the truth from the fantastic stories.
Oh, yeah, and, how I've been collecting these stories and these reports for over 4 years, believe me, I've come across many that were just total farces, because people wanted attention or whatnot. But that's just part of it. You got to weed through them and try to figure out which one is credible and which one is not, and that's just part of investigating these things.
See,
Sorry, Mark. Yeah. Anyway, on that note, we need to take a little break. So hold that thought. We'll be back straight after this.
You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.
Welcome back. We are the Dark Mirror Show. I am joined by my co-host, Mark Manley, and our lovely guest, Dave Spinks. And before the break, we covered ufology and cryptozoology, but there's a lot more to Dave than that. He does a lot of paranormal investigations. And Mark, you were talking about Waverley while we were listening to that break, weren't you?
Yes, that's right. Waverley Sanatorium in Louisville. I've seen this mentioned many times with lots of other investigators in America and stuff. And I find the whole thing fascinating. Dave, you said you've been there 3 times. Tell us about your experiences there.
The most profound experience I had there was the second time I was there. I used to work, I had a small group of, when I first started, when I went public with what I do, my cousin, Billy Spinks, he's still an active law enforcement officer. And we had a little group with him and his son, and we had a psychologist on the team. We also had a spiritualist and a nurse on our team. So we all packed up and went over there and to Waverly. And we were on this one area where the surgical floor is. And we were actually going up to the surgical floor. And I was first one. I was going up the stairs, and my cousin Billy was right behind me. And all of a sudden, he made this sound like something just punched him in the gut, like that sound, you know. And I turned around, I said, "What's wrong? You all right?" And he said, "No, I can't move." And he's like, it's like he ran into a brick wall, and it was like physically holding him from moving forward or backward or anything. And you're talking about a grown man that deals with some of the most prolific killers and scumbags in the United States, you know. And after a few minutes of this, I just watching him and trying to pull him, and it was like trying to pick up a 10-ton weight. I couldn't move him, and tears started coming out of his eyes, and he was on the verge of just breaking down crying. And then all of a sudden it let go, and he was able to move. It was really intense and one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And, you know, knowing him as well as I do, I know he would never, ever ponder even for 1 second to fake something like that, you know, and seeing the reaction he had physically, you know, with tears coming out of his eyes and the true look of fright on his face because he could not move by some kind of unseen force holding him there. That was one really intense experience I had there. And then up later on that same investigation, we were up in the surgery ward, in the surgery room where they perform surgery, you know, and I felt like something hit me in the stomach, you know, just punched me, and I became physically ill and was like dry heaving, like I thought I was going to throw up, like someone just punched me in the gut. So we had the spiritualist that was with us do some cleansing on us and stuff, and it all seemed to go away. And we caught numerous light anomalies on that floor. We heard a metal door slam. I mean, as loud as you could think, you know, just this really loud bang, like a metal door slamming. And we ran around the whole floor right there where we heard the noise and could not find one metal door anywhere. So there wasn't even a door that could have made that sound. You know, all the doors are off. When we were there anyway, several years ago, all the doors were off in that building. And so that was, you know, something had enough energy to actually make that noise with a door that wasn't even there. So it was really spooky. And, you know, that's all. We caught a lot of that. You can see it on my channel, on the Real Supernatural channel, if you watch the Waverly Hills videos. Also in the body shoot at Waverly Hills, they had these lanterns hanging off hooks on the ceiling. And if you've ever been in there, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, it's just a long, square cement tube that's like 300-400 feet long. It's humongous, and it goes straight down in a really steep angle. And I was sitting there, and we caught the lamp swaying all by itself. And there was numerous lamps, and that was the only one swaying. And we caught that on tape as well, along with some crazy ghost box responses and whatnot. So it's one of the most haunted places I've ever been, and it never disappointed the 3 times I was there.
So definitely in your top 10 of best investigations.
Oh, yeah. I'd have to put it in my top 5, I would say.
What would you say is the best one you've ever done? Or the most interactive?
Well, I don't know if we touched on this last time. I think we did, but when me and my buddy David Weatherly were at the Rhodes Hotel in Indiana, it was, long story short, it's an old mob hangout. It was speakeasy, a brothel. Yeah. And we went in there, stayed in. We were doing a small event there with, actually, Jay Lynch was there. With us. We're doing a small.
Our very own Jay Lynch, yeah.
Yeah, he was there with us. We're doing a small event for charity there. And the first night when we walked in, it was just me and Weatherly. We got there first. We got the key and we went in. Well, immediately we heard heavy, loud footsteps coming down the main stairway. And we were sitting down in the main area. So we ran and we heard the front door open. And we ran over there like, man, there's somebody in here, you know? So we ran over there, nothing. And there was snow on the ground outside. We ran outside. There's no foot tracks in the snow, nothing. And the front door standing wide open. So that was the first thing that happened. That was pretty off the hook. So we were tired from a long drive. We went up to the rooms, picked out what room we were going to sleep in. You know, he picked his room and I picked my room. And we started getting our bedding ready for the night and whatnot. And I started hearing what sounded like women having a conversation, but I could not make out what they were saying. So I popped my head out in the hallway and looked around, didn't see anybody. And I yelled to David Weatherly. I said, hey, are you hearing what I'm hearing? And he said, the women talking? I said, yeah. So we searched around the whole building again and outside, looked outside. There's nobody outside, nobody in the building. It was freezing cold. So, you know, there wouldn't be anyone standing outside talking anyway. There was no foot tracks in the snow around the building. And we went on and had the investigation the next night. Jay and all the other people showed up, and everybody was sitting downstairs. Me and Weatherly were upstairs in the main hallway, and he was standing in this bathroom doing a ghost box session. And I went in there and took a piece of a static meter in there to set down so he could use, you know, we could see if something would set it off. Well, I've been over to set down this static meter, and some wave of like energy just hit me and I stumbled backwards and I got really dizzy. And he's like, what happened? I said, I don't know. Something just came over me, like a wave of air hit me or something. I don't feel right. And he said, you better go sit down. So I sat down behind the camera and stuff. And he's like, what did you do to Dave? And a voice comes over the ghost box and says, I hit him, ha, 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 like that. And he said, what'd you hit him with? And it said, a shovel. Well, it was getting really negative at that point. He kept, you know, all these negative, growly voices and sounds were coming out of the ghost box. So he said, I'm shutting this session down. And everybody downstairs was watching the live. This was live on YouTube. And they were watching it. And I went downstairs and sat down, and I felt a tickling sensation on my head. And I reached up there and touched my head, and I had a really big knot with a gash in the top of my head. And I was bleeding.
Oh, wow.
So to me, that was, you know, it was very unnerving for one, that a force was that strong it could punch through the veil and actually physically crack my head. You know,
that's a lot of energy. Yeah.
Yeah. And, so we took pictures of it and documented it and everything. And the next, after the event, everybody left. And that day, me and Weatherby were still there. We stayed there for 5 days. Well, we were downstairs, and he started talking to this, you know, entity and saying, you know, why'd you attack him and this and stuff. And the same voice started coming over the ghost box again, and it started threatening him, saying it was going to cut him and all this stuff. And this was live again on the channel. And he said, my back's burning. And he had 2 shirts on. He had a long sleeve thermal shirt and a t-shirt over top of that. And I'm filming him again. I said, pick up your shirt. Let me see. And he had these huge red welts from his left shoulder all the way down to the, like where his pant line is. And wow. The thing was saying it was going to attack him, you know, before it happened. He had all these burning, you know, I hear a dog in the background.
It's the paranormal, one of the paranormal pooches. It's the Hound of the Baskervilles, you know. Yeah,
man. So that's as far as, you know, being probably one of the craziest locations I've ever been. That definitely the Rhodes Hotel is right up there.
Wow, that's thanks for sharing that with us. Yeah. One of the places you've done, which personally I find fascinating. But I'd like to hear your take on it. Is Boot Hill, like as in the Boot Hill, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that was Virginia City, Nevada. That's mine and Weatherly's one of our favorite locations to investigate because virtually the whole freaking town is haunted. Really? I mean, you're talking about the Comstock lode, the biggest cache of gold ever found in the United States. Back in those days, I don't even remember the numbers, but it's astronomical how much gold they pulled out of these mines right here, and this town sprung up, you know, there, Virginia City, and you can only imagine back in the old West, you know, all the brothels and the murders and everything, people robbing each other for the gold, and you know, all that type of stuff going on. Of course, and you know, I don't even know how many deaths are documented there. It's an astronomical number. people dying in mine accidents, murders, the whole 9 yards, shootouts. It's the old West, big time. And there's so many buildings and locations there that have reported paranormal activity. And we've been there several times, and usually when we go, we try to do some of the different buildings, and I've been to all of them pretty much, except for some that they just recently opened up. So we'll be going back there in the near future, and taking Sean Austin with us, another guy we work with. And, it's just, I highly recommend, if you ever come to the States and you want to go to a haunted town, that's probably number one on the list, man. There's so many locations in that town that are haunted. It's just incredible.
Well, I must admit, we were talking to Jay about things, and I've said on my bucket list, I want to go to get the money, go to North America, hire an RV, grab hold of Jay, and just tour the North America for a few weeks and investigate everything and make films and stuff, and come back over here and go, hey, did it.
Well, and us guys over here, in the States, we want to go to England and Scotland and Ireland because of the history over there, because of, all the wars and so many haunted castles and the whole 9 yards. I mean, it's got to be totally loaded with paranormal activity over in the UK.
I mean, a lot of the places we've been to, there's a fair amount there, but I think a lot of paranormal investigation, it depends on the time of year, what's happened there, yourself, because you go to one thing and it'll be dead,
Oh yeah, I've been, it's something we don't often talk about is, you go to some of these locations one time and you don't get squat, and the next time you go, it's just totally off the chain with activity. You just never know what you're going to get. And I also like to tell people that this is not, going back to where my head was cracked by something unseen. This is not, it's not playland, people. It can be dangerous. So, if you're just starting out, it's not like you see on TV. You go into a place for many, many hours, sometimes days, and you might have 5 minutes of activity if you're lucky. You just never know what you're going to get when you do this stuff.
I mean, exactly. Some of the things you see on TV don't actually reflect what really happens. Like, when people get drained, when they fed off their energy and things like that. But one of the other places you did, apart from Boot Hill, you also did the Nitro Antique Mill.
Oh yeah, Nitro Antique Mall. That's here in West Virginia. That's owned by a friend of mine, and let me tell you guys, one of the places, if you ever want to find a haunted place, is some of these antique malls, because the one that you're talking about is huge. It's like 20,000 square feet, and what they do is they buy dead people's estates and they sell their stuff. And not to mention, this one is a mall, so you have all these other people that have brought in other antiques that have their own little booths, and they sell them too. So you'll have anything from Nazi paraphernalia to someone's, hand-me-down from their great-great-great-grandparents that could have paranormal activity attached to it. That one has had many different items, and it's different every time I go in there. That's why I like going there so often, because you never know from day to day what type of antique they're going to bring in that may have something attached to it. So, if you ever get lucky enough to investigate an antique mall, I highly recommend it.
No, I mean, we have investigated one place which did have a lot of antiques in, and again, it was mostly residual, but there was a lot of energy, especially off the medals and things. Do you remember that, Kerry?
Are you talking about Tithe Barn?
Yeah.
Yeah, the medals were actually from my granddad, though, weren't they? I took them.
Were they? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'd actually taken them with me to incorporate in a crystal grid, because that's how I work in the field, in the location itself, to try and, because there was links with a lot of other military paraphernalia, I think is the expression. I mean, the barn itself was full of, like you said, loads and loads of different things from different eras. So I wanted to bring a link in, because previous investigation we had done there had a military guy come through. So I just was trying to mix it up a little bit and try and bring a different energy in, and a protected energy as well, being granddad, So yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying when you're talking about that.
I mean, I must admit, it's quite good because I like doing the military places because, like yourself, I'm ex-military, I'm ex-infantry, and it's quite funny when we go to the forts because Kerry will turn around and go, "Mark, start shouting," and I'll go into sergeant mode, and it works. It really works. When I start acting, I was a sergeant. When I start doing that, it's amazing what we get coming back. Do you use the same techniques?
Yeah, absolutely. I've utilized that at the Gettysburg battlefield, and was able to record. I shouted out commands: "Fire at will," and I shit you not. Sorry, oops, I cussed. Sorry.
It's okay. It's marked as explicit. It's fine.
It blew me away because I actually got on the camera's audio and my recorder cannon shot and musket fire after I said "fire at will." So it was really profound. It was almost like you were back in the battle because it was, mind you not, there was no celebrations going on. There was nobody around. It was all in the off season. It was 10 o'clock at night, and you start hearing cannon fire, boom, boom, boom. One after another. Must have been 20, 30 rounds fired, and then a whole barrage of musket fire. So, and it happened numerous times with the musket fire. You heard several volleys of fire go off at different times. So it was really awesome to experience that.
I must admit, everybody that I've seen or heard or read about that's investigated there, they've all said exactly the same thing. Certain time of night, you'll hear the cannons go off, you'll hear the muskets go off, you can hear shouted orders, and you can sometimes hear the people, some of the screams of people dying.
Yeah, where I was that particular night was on the actual cavalry battle site where the cavalries fought, and the main cavalry battle happened. Yeah. And I actually captured a voice on there that said, I was kind of shouting out, "Anyone need anything to drink? Anyone need whiskey? Whatever." And I got a guy's voice that said, water, just like that. Wow. And it was really spooky when I played it back, and I didn't even know I captured it till I got home and reviewed the audio tape. And then a few seconds later, it sounded like a guy's last dying breath, like that last exhale when people die, that like that. And it was just, man, that hair on the arms and the back of your neck just stand up. You're like, holy crap, man, that was crazy.
I'm not surprised. It sounds you were saying you guys would like to come over here and investigate, and you're welcome anytime. But if you do get to go over here, you're more than welcome to come on investigations with us. But there's also, you've gone to some fantastic places. One of the places you did back in '94 was the Indian ruins in Tucson. I'd love to hear about that because I like all that stuff, Native American stuff.
Yeah, my first duty station was in Tucson, Arizona, at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, and that was right before the Phoenix Lights happened, and that whole area is known as a UFO highway, if you will. And I, when I had days off, I'd often go out to some of the Indian monuments and ruins, and on that particular day, I really didn't get much, but when I was a kid, me and my family had gone out there from New Mexico because I was also an Air Force brat. My stepdad was in the military as well. So I grew up from the time I was 5 years old, being around military bases, living on military bases and whatnot. So we would often, he'd get his leave and we'd take trips. My first EVP I ever caught, we went to some Native American ruins out there in New Mexico. It's a place called Mesa Verde. In 1996.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 1986. And I had my big giant tape recorder because back in the day that's what you had, Yeah. And I had seen and read stories about Han Holzer, capturing EVPs. So I wanted to try it. And so I had my little tape recorder and took it out there, and I actually recorded some drums and some Native American chanting, and it blew me away. And besides my experiences I had as a young man, when I actually captured my first piece of evidence like that, that was it, man. I was hooked, and I knew that's what I was going to be doing, every chance I got.
It does get you like that, doesn't it? When you get your first thing that makes you go, wow. When you get that bit, that's it. There's no stopping you.
Yep, because not only, you kind of second guess yourself when you see things and you have experience, especially when you're a kid. You think it's a dream or whatever. But when you're consumed with reading about it and trying to find the answers to what you experienced, and then when you actually go out and try it and you capture something, it's mind blowing, and you're pretty much hooked after that.
Yeah, no, tell me about it. That's what it did with me. Before we go, to finish up, I'd like to ask you, out of all the places in the world, if you could investigate anywhere, what would be your number one ultimate investigation that you could do if money was
Oh, God. Is that a trick question or what? Because there's like so many.
Give us a couple.
Well, I'd love to go to me and Weatherly talk about this. We hear about your forest. We'd love to go there. I'd love to do Dracula's Castle, at least one of them. I'm fascinated with so many locations. I mean, Poveglia Island. I spent 2 or 3 years trying to get on that, so I'd love to get a chance to do that as well, just because of the tragedy factor. I mean, the whole freaking island's built off of bodies. It's hard to tell what kind of evidence you capture there. Let's see. The island of the haunted dolls down in Mexico would be another intriguing place.
We were talking about that the other day.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many. I'd like to do some stuff down around the Bermuda Triangle, at some point. And I'm fascinated with so many places, lake monsters, you name it. I mean, if there's an opportunity for me to go, I'm going, so.
Yeah. What do you reckon about Bermuda? I mean, what do you reckon that could be?
Well,
so many theories.
I think there's these geomagnetical hotspots all over the world, and I think some of these ley lines and these geomagnetical locations have a lot to do with different things that happen paranormal wise, high EMF, all that kind of stuff. I think there's just so many things about the forces of nature we just don't understand, and I think a lot of that plays into some of these supernatural happenings, if you will.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. Well, yeah, I love talking to you. It's been fascinating talking to you. Thank you very much for coming along. We've still got a couple of minutes yet, but I would like to say when your book comes out, you are more than welcome to come back and have a chat about it again.
I'd love to.
If ever you're over here, bring the Mad J with you. We can all go out and do an investigation, and we'll stick it up on YouTube.
Oh yeah, and that, I forgot to mention, even though I kind of did. Of course, I'd love to do some of the castles in England, Scotland, and Ireland. Of course, I mean, who wouldn't? Yeah. So yeah, man. I think we're kind of talking about making plans to go over there in the near future. So we'll see what happens with it.
Well, if you do, give us a shout, and we'll sort something out with you if you like.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, you're more than welcome. As I say, I mean, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I could talk to you for all day about the stuff that you do and we do, but Kerry would find that boring, and so would everybody else. So before we go, Kerry, is there anything you'd like to say?
So, Dave, whereabouts can people connect to you or find you and find out a bit more about what you do?
Well, you can go to my website. It's www.davespinks.paranormalinvestigator.com. It has links to all my social media, and you can connect to my 2 different YouTube channels and watch us do live investigations by myself, but when I'm by myself, and then when I'm with the SOS guys, David Weatherly and Sean Austin. We also have a channel. It's both channels are fairly new, only about a year old, and they're up and coming. Got a lot of cool stuff on there already. So go and give it a watch and check it out, and please subscribe to our channels.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that.
Yeah,
all right. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us.
At least we had a good connection this time. At least we had a good connection.
But definitely a,
we can actually hear
a
you
much
this time.
better connection. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to everybody who joined us into the chat room. James, Kyla, Andy Mercer, Richard, Stephen, Mark, I believe you were in there as well.
Yes, I was. Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. Join us next week on Friday at 9 p.m. We are talking the Hollow Earth theory next week, but there are shows at 9 p.m. every single night of the week. And don't forget, we have the KTPF show going on tomorrow night. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all very, very soon.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute treat.
You're listening to Parasearch UK Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio.